This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Today on CityCast Boise. This year's college graduates are stepping into a job market that's anything but predictable, with recession rumors, AI-filtered interviews, and lots of listings but few callbacks. We're finding out how new grads are navigating the chaos, adapting, and building their future. It's Wednesday, June 11th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me today is Giselle Vega, a recent Boise State graduate, and she's sharing her experience entering a difficult job market. Thanks for joining me today, Giselle.
Thanks for having me.
First off, congratulations. And how are you feeling right now? Excited, anxious, a little of both?
I'm feeling everything. Really anxious for getting a job, but really excited because I'm not a student anymore. So
that is a great feeling. Can you walk us through what you studied and what kind of work you're hoping to do next?
Yeah, I was an integrated media and strategic communications major. Long story short, it's just like PR, journalism, media production. And that's mainly what I was doing. So my emphasis was in media production. And those are kind of the jobs that I'm looking for. I want to do production for a marketing or advertising agency and then build my way up into the entertainment industry.
That sounds really exciting. It sounds like there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
So with that field in mind, how does the job market feel to you right now as someone who has freshly entered it?
It feels really inauthentic. Like when I go onto Indeed or onto LinkedIn, it feels like I'm applying to something that I'm probably not going to get. Kind of like I'm submitting something to like a robot is what it feels like. I think you're more likely to land a job by word of mouth or by your connections and who you know. Doing applications and applying for jobs online, it doesn't feel like it's real, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I'm really curious what you think about. I've heard lots of people talk about this idea. Are the jobs being posted even real? Are they really even hiring for them? Or is this just kind of a front that businesses are doing and they aren't even really interviewing or trying to hire someone for the job? Does it feel that way?
Yeah, it really does feel that way. Especially since I had a meeting at my work. I worked at the arena, at the Idaho Central Arena. And during the Big Sky conference, we got to meet with the coaches and some of the directors of the teams. They kind of told us that most of the time they already know who they're going to hire. It's an in-house hire, people they know. But they post it just for the company image or something, just to show that they do hire or there's a chance for them to hire to get those applicants. So if they need somebody down the road, they could look back into those applicants. But most of the time, with companies, one of them was a director for Nike. He told us that they usually just pick somebody that already is working for them in a different role. So it kind of feels like they're just posting because they have to, and you're not necessarily going to be picked for the job.
Well, I'm thinking about that as a new grad where you haven't gotten your foot in the door yet. Is it disheartening knowing that it seems like a lot of times these companies aren't looking for new talent, new grads? They're looking in-house?
Yeah, it does really feel disheartening. It's a little scary, especially if you want to go into bigger corporations like Nike or Adidas, or sports. I feel like thankfully through my internships, I was able to get a few connections, so I'm not too worried. But for like a recent grad who didn't have opportunities to do an internship or maybe get to meet people as much, going into those kind of roles is kind of scary if you don't have any connections.
And Giselle, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is your high school graduation was impacted due to COVID. And now you're a college graduate dealing with recession fears and a tough job market and further uncertainty. How has that shaped your outlook on work and stability and getting a job?
With COVID, when that happened, it made me feel really uncertain about where I was going to go after high school just because we moved everything online. So I didn't really want to experience college online. But I ended up enrolling, I think, the fall semester, and I did that all online. Like my internship at the arena, like I kind of knew my way around Zoom and stuff like that. So it really helped out. And I feel like in this industry, like production, PR, journalism, it's become more like online. I think it really helped me feel prepared, if anything. I don't really think it really gave me much of a disadvantage.
So it sounds like maybe some positives with, you feel very comfortable in the online space, in working in online spaces, but, potentially with a recession looming, it's just trickier. You want to find a job. Everybody's got to have a job. So
Yeah. And it's also scary because I feel like like right now I'm applying to like a bunch of internships and stuff. And I feel like if I don't end up getting picked for something, I'm gonna have to end up going like somewhere else, like somewhere maybe retail or something I don't want to do just to pay my bills and then ending up stuck in a cycle where I work there for a while. So
yeah. So what has your job search looked like so far? How many positions have you applied for? What platforms are you using? And what has the response been like?
Yeah, I've applied mainly on LinkedIn. It's been a little tough finding jobs in production marketing. It's been really easy actually. So I've applied to different places. So I want to go out of state. So I've applied to places in New York, California, Texas. But I am in like the interview process for Live Nation in Texas in Austin. And I have family over there, so I'm planning on moving over there. And if that falls through, just looking for something in the area.
Did you initially look for jobs in the area, or did you really cast like a wide net, kind of looking anywhere considering the economics right now?
Yeah, I kind of looked everywhere. I figured that if I could land something that I really liked that paid really well, I wouldn't mind moving somewhere for it, which is, I didn't realize, but a lot of the marketing jobs and like things that can really get your foot in the door are in California and New York. So that was a little tough to take off my list.
Let's talk about another layer. On top of everything we've already talked about is technology in the hiring process. Have you encountered any AI resume screenings or virtual interviews? And what's that been like?
I have. They are not my favorite. It feels scarier just because I feel like when you have an interview, even online or in person, or over a phone call, you can kind of get an idea of what your employer's like, what kind of environment the job might be like. But with the AI interviews, you don't really know what you're going into. You don't know what they're looking for, what kind of person they're interested in. So I feel like it's more nerve-wracking. And when you're giving your answers, it's like a one go, and then that's it. So they usually let you record one response, and then that's the one that gets submitted, and then they move you through like 4 or 5 questions, and then the interview's over. And then if they like you, they'll give you a call.
It definitely sounds, I haven't had one yet, so it sounds more maybe dehumanizing a little bit, or like, just like record a message, something that makes the interview process, nobody loves the interview process, but a little easier is that like you can look at somebody's eyes. You can gauge how are people reacting. I mean, do they even put like a fake AI face up, or are you just recording?
It's just you. It's literally just like if you were recording a video on your phone. They give you the question prior, and then it goes into the camera, and then it's just you talking to yourself. And I think it's also scary because you're watching yourself, and then you're seeing how your mannerisms are, the way you talk, all these different things.
That does sound really nerve-wracking. I don't want to be the one watching myself while I'm interviewing.
Yeah, no. It's the worst. I'm not a fan.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
I'm really curious, have you received feedback from any of your mentors or hiring managers about how to stand out in this sea of applications for job postings that might not be real and AI interviews that are just recordings of watching yourself? Like how do you stand out as a candidate?
Yeah. So I had my mentor at the arena. She told me that, especially as a woman going into like sports, any kind of sports industry, it's kind of scary just because they don't really hold you up to a certain standard. They don't really expect much from you. So she told me that the best thing I could do was getting experience, even if I wasn't getting paid for it, which sometimes it sucks, not getting paid for your work, but it really does help. She told me that when I moved to Austin, I should look for production companies and different things like that, ask them to job shadow them, to do work for them for free, like even doing sound, holding microphones for them, anything to get my leg in the door.
Nobody wants to work without pay. Does it feel frustrating that you have to do all of these additional steps, especially as a woman trying to get into that area just to try to get your foot in the door?
It does feel it is frustrating actually. Like it really sucks. But I think for me, it makes me feel really good about myself just because I have all these things to show for like how my work ethic is, how my work looks, all these different things. So I think I enjoy being able to prove what I'm worth, but it does suck having to do the work for free. It's also tricky just because I think job shadowing and doing all those things kind of fall between the 9 to 5 hours, but I also work, so it's kind of hard to find time to.
Yeah. I was going to say, when people say like we all have the same 24 hours in a day, that's absolutely not.
No.
Not if you're trying to job shadow and work and, find ways to be innovative for your resume online. No.
Yeah, no.
So, Giselle, are you planning on moving to Texas while you're still applying and working to get your foot in the door? Or are you going to wait until you for sure have a job offer? What does that plan look like for you?
So the biggest contributor to me not being super anxious and not having like panic attacks over job searches and stuff like that is my family. They help me out so much. I have family in Austin and they are letting me stay at their house. And they aren't charging me rent just so that I could start building connections, start building my resume. So I will be able to job shadow and everything, find those hours. But yeah, I I'm going to move over there next month and then kind of go from there. Try to reach out to people. And yeah.
Do you think that Idaho, and maybe we'll even make it narrower, and specifically the Boise job market is doing enough to support new grads like you? And if not, what do you wish was different?
I feel like there are enough opportunities in Boise for new grads, but it really depends on what you're going into. Like for engineering, there's a ton of opportunities for engineers in the area, like Micron, different things like that. And then for agriculture, tons of agriculture in Idaho, super easy. But for other things like marketing, PR, and things like that, a lot of employers are only looking for like a certain number of students, so maybe like one or two. And it feels like there's just this huge candidate pool for like a super small amount of jobs. And in marketing and advertising, I feel like in the area, it all feels very similar. They all kind of produce the same kind of content. And I mean, it works. I feel like it works for the most part here in Boise just because the demographic kind of fits with that content that they're producing. So advertising and marketing agencies that do unique things is what I'm looking for. And I feel like the Boise area doesn't really have much of that.
So it sounds like there's a lot of, if you fit into very specific demographics or types of careers or a very specific type of marketing, that there might be jobs for you here, but there's maybe not as much innovation as there are in other areas.
Yeah, I think it's just the demographic. Like, I think there's a lot of families in the area, especially like going into Meridian, Eagle. And Boise is like really the only place I'd say that is very focused on the younger demographic. And I think that's why you see like a lot of cool murals over here. You see all these interesting things. But yeah, I feel like with Wyden and Kennedy, they are an advertising agency and they're based in many different areas like Australia, New York, California, but they are more focused on guerrilla marketing. So like things that shock you, like they did the grimace shake effect or whatever. That was all their idea. I really want to do things like that, but I don't really see that up here. And I think it's just because of the age differences in different cities.
Giselle, what would you say to someone, maybe somebody listening who's in an older demographic or has been in the job market for 20, 30, 40 years and is like, it was hard in my day too. There were difficulties when I entered the job market too. What would you say to them to help them maybe better understand what it feels like as somebody who is Gen Z or a younger millennial or older Gen Alpha who is just trying to get their foot in the door?
I think with like back then, I'm not going to say it was easier. They did have like fewer resources like tech wise. So I feel like a lot of their stuff had to be word of mouth, more in person. So I feel like if you really spoke up about it, because my mom always tells me, she's always like, just ask, like, just go ask them for the job. Just go like do this. And I'm like, it's not that easy. Like, they're not just going to hire me.
Yeah, no, my dad always said like, just walk in, shake the manager's hand and hand them a resume. And I was like, that's not how anything
like,
works anymore.
That's not how that works anymore. Like, you have to go through this application process. And most of the time, they won't even look at your application just because they already have somebody they already know they're going to hire, or they are looking for certain qualifications. They're also doing like, I also hate this, AI has really come into play with sorting through these applications. So a lot of employers have like this thing that looks for certain keywords. So if you don't use the right kind of documents, I learned this in one of my classes too. If you use like if you make it on Canva or something like that, it's harder for AI to decipher like the text and everything versus like if you submitted like a Word doc or something like that. So it's kind of interesting because you have to figure out if you're using the right words that the employer is looking for. So it just feels like you're like this little tiny thing and like in a massive candidate pool. So it's a little tougher.
Well, Giselle, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us and good luck with your job hunt.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you found this episode interesting, make sure and tell your friends about the show. We'll be back tomorrow morning with an inside look at Amano's brand new space and James Beard nomination. Catch you then.